Taxi and Limousine Committee is now in order, and on the committee is myself, Ann Manning, Councilor Ann Manning Martin, and Councilor Joseph Sasslaw. Councilor Martin's not here this evening, and Councilor Gould will be sitting in, and councilors, you're all welcome to join in. Councilors, this is a meeting we've had once before, and also we have here Deputy Chief Martin Cohen from the Police Department, who was here a while ago to explain this issue. I'm going to have him do it again. And councilors, hopefully this evening we'll come up with a solution to the request from Deputy Chief Cohen. Do you want to explain the issue, Councilor?
Certainly, thank you.
Yes, sir.
As we spoke before, it's a convoluted issue. We have problems with taxi cabs, most of the ones that are contiguous to the city of Peabody, Salem, Lynn, that come in here with great regularity and pick up and drop off fares. To further add to the issue, we've got Uber and Lyft that operate freely within the city of Peabody and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I don't know what the answer is. I've spoken with the city attorney, and my best recommendation would be to maybe tweak the existing ordinance, craft it as such that we try to eliminate the requirement that they have an address in Peabody and a phone. I think technology has pretty much driven away businesses being located in a certain place. Everything now is remotely. That would also give us the opportunity to regulate them in some fashion, come up with a fee, something that's within the line of what the taxis in Peabody pay. They pay a licensing fee, they pay excise taxes, they pay fees for the licenses of the drivers. So maybe we could average that out and come up with a set fee to allow them to operate year to year. They'd have to reapply like the existing cabs, and that would solve two problems, maybe create a little revenue stream for the city, because they are operating here, they are doing business here, and it'll allow us to regulate them in some fashion. And if they violate it, they're licensed, we can bring them in here and you can deal with it accordingly. You have the authority to suspend it or revoke it. And also, as a city ordinance, it becomes arrestable. A violation of a city ordinance in our presence is arrestable. So if they're regulated by us and part of that ordinance and they violate that ordinance, I think that's a last resort, but I think that will make a lasting impression and maybe work to solve the problem.
Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Deputy. Marty, can you shut that off while that line's on, and then we'll go the other way? Thanks a lot. Thank you, Deputy Chief. So Marty, the issue one issue that stands out mostly from the prior hearing that we had with you was that a licensed taxi cab from Salem comes up, drops someone at the mall, and they're not allowed to pick up someone at the mall and take them to another spot, correct?
Correct. The only way that they can legally operate in the city of Peabody is they start a fare in a city or town that they're licensed and bring them here. They're allowed to pick them up on the same day as a return.
As the amendment currently stands, that's the only way they're allowed. If we require, technically, if we require an address, does that change things? Technically, if we don't require an address, yet increase the licensing fees, but that's a separate matter, does that change anything? Will they then be allowed to pick up fares, or still only the fare that they dropped off on the same day?
No, it would be crafted so that they would be allowed to operate within the city of Peabody as a taxi cab, and in lieu of the being housed here, they would be kind of like a guest. So if they're lawfully licensed in the city of Salem, you could allow them to operate on that license with a fee in Peabody as if they were licensed in Peabody.
I think that's a great idea, Mr. Chairman. But does that allow you to have any bite? You'll now have the bite you need to enforce the rules?
We have a bigger bite because now they're licensed by you and now they have to answer to you. Right now they don't. I can't cite them for some of the violations of taxi cabs because they're not a taxi cab in the city of Peabody. Therefore, I can't bring them in front of you because you have no authority over them. But if you were to craft the ordinance to allow that, now they answer to you.
And we would require them to change to whatever we decide, and it will be up to them to come forward through the police department and pay a new fee to you, which will then allow them to operate.
It would be similar to an existing city licensed taxi. They would go to the city clerk's office, make an application, they send it to us, we vet them, then we return it to you, and you decide whether you're going to give it to them or not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Deputy.
Joe?
Thank you. Is the biggest offenders that you see, which city and towns are they coming from?
The highest volume I see is Salem. There are 3 licensed taxis in Salem that come to the city of Peabody regularly. If you go up the mall and sit by the food court on the 128 side and sit there, you'll see them. It's like a revolving door.
And I concur with Council Gould. I'd like to see us have a draft of a city ordinance. I think that to require them to have a physical address probably is not reasonable at this point in time, the way the whole industry is going, but I think we had used the word, and that's why I asked about what city, was if they're a contiguous community to Peabody, that they would then fall within the parameters of doing business in Peabody. And I also agree that we put a city ordinance on the books, and now they can be suspended, and also some type of small fee to operate, because we're never going to see the excise taxes because they're not going to have a physical address in Peabody, as a P.O. box does not work according to the opinion of the city solicitor. So at this point, I think we have to try and capture something, and I think a small fee would make sense. So I'm in support of crafting an ordinance with those items inside the ordinance.
Anybody else? Well, basically, you've covered everything, and my only question to you would be, would you be willing to sit down with the city solicitor and tell him exactly what it is you're looking for so that he can tweet or write up this ordinance the way it'll work out for the best interests of the police department?
Sure. If you just, in your instructions to him, have him reach out to me, and I'll sit with him and...
Okay. That would be my recommendation, and you know more of what you're looking for than we do. I mean, this issue to me is a little complicated, believe it or not. I thought it was a very simple issue, but once you get into it and you start reading this whole contract, it gets a little complicated. And I think you sitting down with the city solicitor, would it be good for the city and good for the police department? Any other questions, councilors? Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim, do we need that in the form of a motion? I'd like to make a motion to follow the recommendation of Deputy Chief Cohen and change and help City Solicitor Smazinski come up with a new ordinance for taxi cabs and limousines. So moved.
Heard the motion, councilors. Roll call.
Councilors Gould, Sasslaw,
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. That's it. Meeting adjourned.
To adjourn.